Ever wonder if the pronouns in the phrase me, myself, and I each refer to something different? Maybe the self is comprised of three separate parts. Some say those parts are the mind, body, and soul. I get the mind-body part, but what does soul add to the equation? How does mind perceive the soul? How does soul connect to the body? The mind crumbles under these questions, probably because explaining soul awareness is like trying to describe the dynamics of a spinning top using language of a balance scale, or explaining infinity. Perhaps by pursuing how these aspects of self might merge into one, clarity of self is gained. Soul is free of mind and body limitations, a third dimension of ourselves directly linked to the source of our being. In other words, seeing self with soul as third facet expands awareness into the timeless present moment of now that rises above noise and danger. Secondly, it's our soul that conceives the spirit energy of all that is. And the good news, all that soul is, we are. Consider the ancient maxim, know thyself. When pondering the question, who am I? How do you respond? Does absolute knowing burst into your awareness? What does your mind-body reaction tell you? Do you feel awash in a sea of uncertainty, or does cacophonous thought amplify visceral reactions? This age-old question is addressed by Joseph Campbell in the quote, "He who thinks he knows doesn't know. He who knows that he doesn't know knows." You see, this third part of who we are is entirely ineffable. Intellect cannot contain it. A third component of our existence linking to the power of creation veiled in time and space. Consider the metaphor of the Tower of Babel, a story of how mind and body attempt to reach into the ethereal to give the unspeakable a name. The best mental and physical constructs can do is place road signs pointing towards the path of self-gnosis. And self-gnosis, at one with body and intellect, quietly stands in awe in the presence of soul. Reuniting the trinary self is somewhat of a paradox for a mind trapped in duality, because accepting the charisms of soul shatters numerous mental constructs. Also, only one's self can pursue awareness. One cannot do it for another. So as you ponder this perspective, allow your mind to go beyond thought. Experience present moment gnosis. Focus your awareness on the radiant energy of your heart. A visual aid for this adventure is to imagine a pyramid in 3 dimensions. A pyramid with 4 points, so when any 3 rest on a table, the 4th protrudes up into 3-dimensional space. The tetrahedron, with its symmetry, balance, and relationship, is an allegory for the individuated self. Why the word individuated? Consider the notion our origins come from a singular source, the One, the fountainhead of all that is in space and time and all that lies beyond. This singular source authors all love, consciousness, joy, excitement, and is what multitudes of metaphors point to as the stuff through which all existence is expressed. Authored by the One, The individuated self is one of the many. Our capacity to exist as a separate, self-aware individual is represented by the tetrahedron wherein 3 points, mind, body, and soul, merge together to make up their portion of the whole. Their synchronistic dance and interplay expresses consciousness, and these 3 vectors shape the portal through which the 4th point, representing awareness, presides. So, imagine yourself looking inside the tetrahedron through this portal, much like using a microscope to see the remaining 3 points resting on the table. If self is an integration of 3 vectors and our autonomy as individuals depends upon their interrelationships, using an allegorical wheel, let's imagine how mind, body, and soul might entangle to manifest our individuated selves. How do they maintain balance? What synergy allows each of them to equitably serve the whole? Let's see what happens when we reapply the 3-in-1 formula onto the allegorical self. Notice how the harmonic balance of the subcomponents support the momentum of their larger vectors, and also how all of the vectors and subcomponents intersect with each other at the same instant. I refer to this moment as the 0 point, wherein all facets of the self unite with the singular source of all that is. The opposite of the 0 point represents full expression of the individuated self. So it's logical to presume the cause of this expansion-contraction cycle effectively locks all 3 vectors into energetic duality. Awareness stands apart from this binary expression. Let's assign words to the 9 subcomponents and unpeel layers of relationship. The mind vector is in equilibrium when intellect, gnosis, and sense are in balance. Body maintains equilibrium when gut, heart, and brain are in balance. The soul vector transmutes spirit energy into the individuated self through being, function, and will. The mind, body, and soul subcomponents have many relationships. Viewing the 3 points on our tabled tetrahedron, intellect sits at the peak of the mind vector. Gut, or the abdominal system, orients toward the body. Why the abdominal system? Because the consumption of food and water to sustain our physical and vibratory self-expression is how the body integrates external matter. Being within the soul vector directly points to the singular source of all that is from within the encapsulated, individuated self. Moving from the corners to the sides of our tetrahedron, notice how the remaining 6 subcomponents relate to their neighboring larger vectors. Beginning with the soul vector, will or intent supports the mind, whereas function directs the body. Mind gnosis is derived from the soul connection, while sense merges with the body vector. The brain or nervous system is how the body communicates with the mind, while the heart exudes soul energy. Now, what if the subcomponents use tripart equilibrium as well? What might the 3-in-1 formula overlaid a 3rd time look like through our viewport? Notice how this 3rd level entwines the 2nd level so that all 9 subcomponents now function as subparts. Do you see how they affect equilibrium at 2 levels? The same symbiosis occurs for all 3 vectors. Comprehending this dynamic relationship exclusively through intellect fails to encompass the fullness of being. For example, in respect to impact on the whole, if body is a 1 and mind is a 10, soul could be seen as a 100. So let's rotate the soul vector to the superior position and imagine soul as the primary channel of source energy flowing through the individuated self. Self-reunion begins with soul awareness. Try this. With minimal thought, focus on the center of the triangle and allow the allegorical wheel to reveal entanglement by expanding your perception to include all 27 balls. Avoid shifting your eyes as the many expressions of symmetry and equilibrium presented in the animation peek into your awareness. You might watch all 9 red balls orbit within the circular boundary without focusing on any one ball. The 9 red balls are third-level subparts expressing equilibrium perceived at the larger vector level. What you're seeing is analogous to energetic information transferring between dimensions, which might be how soul integrates with body and mind. One final idea. Nikola Tesla was quoted to say, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Pure energy, whose source is the one from which all is manifest, includes our individuated selves." I often see soul having the front row seat to pure source energy, with mind clocking, sampling, and processing frequency information, and body bound to Earth's vibration. I wonder at times if the individuated self is but an orchestra of energy, frequency, and vibration, as awareness serves as conductor. To recap, my hypothesis is that when awareness perceives self as being 3 vectors in equilibrium, reactions to the question, "Who am I?" are neutral, if not more positive. Much can be expanded upon using this concept as you remember the self within me, myself, and I.